Expressionism was an art movement that responded to social, political, and economic changes that were taking place in Europe in the early 20th century. Expressionist music gave composers the opportunity to emphasize their thoughts and feelings within their works. It allowed them to release their emotions for the circumstances that they were in and the changing world that was occurring all around them. New forms and cultures inspired the music of Expressionism. They used beats, rhythms, harmonies, and other elements that were not seen before and could grasp the attention of people easily. The person that I'm going to talk about for Expressionism is Alan Berg and his opera Wozzeck that was produced in 1922. It's a twisted tragedy about the account of murder and madness, which is heard all throughout the music. It is derived from an unfinished opera by George Buchner, and it's about a poor soldier who is abused by his captain, experimented on by a doctor, and believes that his wife Marie is being unfaithful with a drum major. So Wozzeck, the main character, is driven mad, and he murders his wife Marie, and then he drowns himself and leaves his son to wonder about the fate of his parents. I think it's a great example for Expressionism because it talks about a topic that usually wasn't talked about in music that often and just gave a new perspective on how opera should be. So, Impressionism was primarily started in France, and it was in the late 19th century. It refers to a style that explores mood and atmosphere through the use of timbre, which is tone color, orchestration, and progressive harmonic concepts that were new. It uses chromatic scales, pentatonic scales, whole tone scales, and brief flourishes of atonality that were bold steps forward in music. And the music was written to either tell a story or depict a certain mood or emotion. Traditional forms were not usually used, and it gave a new sense of music. Maurice Ravel is the composer that I'm going to talk about. He is from France. And he didn't want to be associated with the Impressionist movement, but he was one of the greatest composers of the time. I'm going to talk about his piece La Valse, which is originally a ballet, but some thought that it didn't have any balletic characteristics. And it became an orchestration about the crumbling American society. It was written as a waltz that gave the impression that everything was okay, like around them, and it used the music to hide the reality of the world that they lived in. So it starts in a dark and moody manner, and then it ends with grotesque humor, known as the Dance of Death. It utilizes dissonance to create the overall mood of the music, and I think it's a great example for Impressionism because it gives off everything that Impressionism was about, even though he didn't want to be associated with Impressionism. Neoclassicism emerged in the early 20th century in France, Germany, and Russia, and it's inspired by ancient Greek and Rome. It means new classical music, and it's a reaction against the emotional aspects of Romanticism. It focused more on the rational ways of expressing emotions with balance and clarity. It aimed to restore the link between traditional music following a wave of musical experimentation at the beginning of the 20th century. It used traditional music as the framework for the new compositions. The composer I'm going to talk about for Expressionism is Edvard Grieg and his Holberg Suite. It's adapted to be a string orchestra, and it has 5 movements with an introduction, and the rest are in a dance-like manner. It's based on 18th century dance music and composed to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Ludwig Holberg's birth, and attempted to give the same energy of the music of Holberg's era. So my personal favorite era was the Middle Ages because I really like Gregorian chant because it gives me like this otherworldly feeling that music of today just doesn't have the same ability to make you feel like as uplifted as the Gregorian chant made me feel. My key pieces of advice for other people who are going to take this course are to get involved and familiar with their classmates, because having someone that you know in your class can make it easier and more fun, and it can make you want to come to class more, which is important. I also suggest that they take notes to use for reference on their exams and assignments to make it easier on themselves. And I also think that people should give themselves time to read and do a little bit of studying on external resources to give themselves the best possible answers that they can to the questions on exams, quizzes, discussions, anything. Just having a general knowledge of what you're talking about is very important. A piece of music that I think everyone has to listen to today is Mind Over Matter by Young the Giant, because it can change your perspective on life and relationships. It's all about, basically in the title, Mind Over Matter. And I think everyone would really enjoy it. So, bye.